but it's still happening now.
Can you tell us about what you were taught about you, focusing on you being the Antichrist?
Well, we had a lot of my childhood being focused on the Antichrist. I was taught how to murder kids.
By what method?
Generally through very up close and personal daggers, stabbing people, stabbing children, cutting pieces of kids apart.
How many people?
Cannibalism. Oh, I couldn't tell you. You know, I actually asked my sister Kathy if she could remember how many kids died in her childhood, how many murders she was involved with. And she couldn't tell me. Because you would have one night, you would have what they were called was happenings. So you would start off with a picnic, and it would be great. You know, you'd go to a picnic, and you'd eat out, and you'd swim and play and all of that. But as it got darker, and everyone got more wasted, because people are thinking, oh, well, these are all, you know, a lot of times the people who are involved with all of this stuff were alcoholic drug users as well. And I think that the people had to anesthetize themselves, because you would have one night, I mean, there were times where we would kill 3 kids in a night. And I mean, slicing and dicing and then drinking their blood. They have a big thing to where if you torture and terrorize a person long enough, what ends up happening is that there's so many endorphins that flood the blood, that the blood acts like an aphrodisiac. And so there was a lot of blood sacrifice. There was a lot of cannibalism. There was a lot of bestiality. Anything that you could basically think of that was humiliating, traumatizing to a child, that's what they did.
But how many people would actually participate in, like in one murder, stabbing? Would it be just you, or would it be a group of people, or was somebody holding your hand with the dagger in it? Or how many people participated in that act?
Usually you had a coven. You had a coven of people, which generally ran 12 people. My father was a high priest. He wore a red robe, which symbolized blood sacrifice. And there weren't a lot of robes. Well, what ends up happening is that you get done with blood sacrifice, you get done drinking the blood, and then everyone would have sex. And so you knew that after the kid got killed and murdered, that you were going to be raped. Because I was my father's son and I was being trained to be the Antichrist, I was involved and pretty much right up there with all of the murders. If I didn't have to drive a knife into the child myself, I had to at least watch and act like I enjoyed it. That was the biggest thing, is that tears were not, you couldn't have any emotions during the sacrifices. Emotions were ferociously dealt with. And so...
How could you not be emotional?
That's why people get the ID. Because what ends up happening is that you dissociate. Because emotions mean that you're actually going to get hurt. And back then, as a child, you never knew if you were going to be next. You never, and they, would do things like disembowel kids. And that sounds terrible, but what's terrible is that disembowelment doesn't kill a person right away. And so, here you have their intestines out and all of that, and they're screaming and in pain and all of that. And you just have to endure it. You just have to deal with it.